Imagine, just for a second, two absolutely massive spacecraft orbiting in the void of space, right? And they're both moving at these immense, mind-boggling speeds. Now, to join them together, you obviously can't just crash them into each other. You need this incredibly delicate, perfectly timed docking maneuver where their speeds, their angles, their trajectories, everything matches flawlessly. Well, believe it or not, in the world of electrical engineering, we do something very similar literally every single day. So, in this explainer, we're diving into the high-stakes, delicate process of generator synchronization. Basically, matching a massive, spinning electrical generator to a live, energized grid. It's a huge engineering feat, and honestly, getting it wrong? Yeah, that's simply not an option. Let's get into it.
Okay, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll look at the high-stakes connection itself. Then, we'll break down the 4 golden rules. After that, we'll check out the tools of the trade, walk through the actual synchronization process, and finally, look at what happens after the breaker closes.
All right, part 1, the high-stakes connection.
So I really want you to think about this. What actually happens if synchronization goes wrong? What if we just sort of cross our fingers, blindly close the breaker, and connect a mismatched spinning generator right to a live grid?
Well, the short answer, complete devastation. If the grid and the generator are significantly mismatched, the second you close that breaker, you produce this massive transient electrical current. But it doesn't even stop at electrical issues. If the angles are badly off, the generator experiences severe electromagnetic torque. We're talking about a sudden, violent physical shock. And that shock, it travels right down the heavy turbine generator shaft train, causing massive physical stress. It can literally tear apart the generator windings, absolutely wreck the circuit breaker, and even send out a ripple effect that disturbs the whole electrical grid. Basically, it's an explosive scenario that we have to avoid at all costs.
And that brings us right to our core definition. Generator synchronization is the process of connecting an incoming generator to an energized electrical grid only when its electrical conditions perfectly match the grid's conditions. So the really crucial takeaway here is that matching is the ultimate goal. The generator essentially has to mimic the grid flawlessly before they are allowed to electrically hold hands.
Moving on to Section 2, the 4 golden rules.
To make this happen safely, operators rely on a mandatory, absolutely non-negotiable checklist. We call it VFPP. That stands for voltage, frequency, phase sequence, and phase angle. Every single one of these 4 parameters on the incoming generator has to mirror the live grid. Take phase sequence, for example, like red, yellow, blue. It has to be identical. If the grid is RYB, the generator simply cannot be RBY. Now, this is usually checked during commissioning and isn't something you'd casually change, but it is a foundational rule. Let's look at how we match the other 3, though.
Next up is frequency. The generator frequency has to be almost perfectly aligned with the grid frequency, which in a lot of the world is 50 Hz. So how do we actually control that? Well, we use the prime mover's governor, which dictates the speed of the turbine. To put that in perspective, for a typical 4-pole synchronous generator, hitting exactly 50 Hz means the governor has to hold the rotor speed at precisely 1500 RPM. Spot on.
And to really wrap your head around how tight these tolerances are, just look at these real-world numbers. Say the grid voltage is 11 kilovolts, and our generator is sitting at 10.98. I mean, that is incredibly close. To perfectly match that voltage, the generator uses its automatic voltage regulator, or AVR for short, which tweaks the excitation system to bump the terminal voltage up or down. Meanwhile, the frequency is off by just a tiny fraction, 0.02 Hz, and the phase sequences already perfectly matched at RYB.
But there's one last P in our VFPP checklist, and that's the phase angle. Even if your voltage and frequency are completely matched, the phase angle between the generator voltage and the grid voltage needs to be as close to 0 degrees as physically possible. Why? Because at exactly 0 degrees, the generator's voltage waveform and the grid's voltage waveform are rising and falling in perfect unison at the exact split second the breaker closes.
All right, Section 3, tools of the trade. Now there's a really crucial concept here called slip frequency. Remember those numbers we just looked at, where the generator was at 50.02 Hz and the grid was right at 50.00? Well, that tiny 0.02 Hz difference is the slip frequency. And here's the cool part. It's not an error. It's actually a tiny controlled intentional drift. It allows the whole synchronizing system to slowly sort of slide into the perfect phase alignment, letting us predict the exact millisecond to safely close the breaker.
To actually see this slip happening, operators use a super neat device called a Synchronoscope. Now, back in the day, older systems used synchronizing lamps that would physically blink bright and dark to show phase differences. But a Synchronoscope dial is way more precise. It gives you a visual read on the phase relationship and frequency difference. If the dial's pointer is completely still, the frequencies are exactly equal. But what operators really want to see is a slow rotating pointer. That shows them that tiny, desirable slip frequency we just talked about, gently guiding them to the perfect closing moment.
Historically, staring at that synchronoscope and making the final call was entirely up to a human operator. That's manual synchronization. The operator adjusts the voltage, tweaks the frequency, watches the dial like a hawk, and hits the button. But today, modern power plants almost entirely rely on automatic synchronization. You've got an automatic synchronizer that continuously monitors all the conditions, talks to the AVR and the governor, and fires off the close command itself with absolute machine-level precision.
Okay, Section 4. The synchronization process. Before we do anything else, I have to introduce you to the real unsung hero of the power plant, the ANSI 25 Synchronism Check Relay. Seriously, this thing is the ultimate failsafe. Even if an operator, or an automatic system for that matter, sends the command to close the breaker, the ANSI 25 relay acts kind of like a bouncer. It will physically block that command unless it independently verifies that the voltage, frequency, phase sequence, and phase angle are perfectly safe. It literally stops catastrophic mistakes dead in their tracks.
So, with our trusty safeguard in place, we can look at this whole sequence as a pretty straightforward block diagram. Step 1, you start the prime mover, using the governor to bring the turbine up to its rated speed. Step 2, you establish excitation, using the AVR to build up the generator's voltage. Step 3, you meticulously match those VFPP conditions. Step 4, the ANSI 25 relay double-checks all the work and gives the green light. And finally, Step 5, the close command is issued. The breaker snaps shut, and boom, the generator is successfully electrically coupled to the grid.
Which brings us to our final section, after the breaker closes.
Now, it's incredibly important to separate these two concepts in your head. Synchronization is literally just the act of getting connected safely, but right after that breaker closes, the generator is basically just spinning along holding hands with the grid, but not actually doing any of the heavy lifting. To actually supply power, we have to enter a new phase called load sharing. And that's where we control exactly how much active and reactive power the generator pushes out after it's connected.
So how do we actually control that load? Well, the operator takes the governor, which remember controls the turbine, and increases the mechanical power. Cranking up that mechanical muscle translates directly into more active power, or megawatts, being exported to the grid. Meanwhile, adjusting the AVR changes the excitation, and that dictates the reactive power, or MVAR, as well as the power factor. So basically, you use the governor for your real mechanical heavy lifting and the AVR for your electrical balancing act. But of course, you can't just keep turning these dials up forever, right? Generators are bound by something called the generator capability curve. This is a super strict operating boundary based on very real thermal and electrical limits, things like stator current limits, rotor heating, and prime mover stability. Even perfectly synchronized generators have to be operated strictly inside this curve so they don't overheat or lose stability.
So, look at what we've done. We've carefully matched our parameters, bypassed the fail-safes, closed the breaker, and safely ramped up our load right within the capability curve. We've successfully docked the generator. But I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought to chew on. Once they're electrically locked together, a generator and the grid are basically at the mercy of one another. So how do sudden massive grid disturbances, like say a lightning strike on a main transmission line, or a huge sudden drop in a city's power demand, how do those events impact this incredibly delicate balance after the breaker is already closed? The physics of a live power grid literally never sleep, and the engineering required to maintain that stability, it's just endlessly fascinating. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep your curiosity sparked.
Before connecting a generator to the grid, voltage, frequency, phase sequence, and phase angle must match.